Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the campaign show. I am your humble host, Patrick Howley, and we have so much to discuss today, especially as the globalist parasites lead us ever closer to World War III. A lot going on today that we must discuss about whether or not this world is still going to be intact after these psychopaths get through with it, because obviously the Biden regime, the Biden junta, the Biden military cabal, military-industrial complex cabal, and Tony Blinken there, they are brazenly and blindly leading us in to an absolutely destructive war that must not happen. And so on this show, we highlight President Donald Trump, who has called for a peace deal in under 24 hours. He says he can get it done before he even gets back into the White House, presumably to pardon himself. He could get the job done. Oh, just turns out he's massively leading the Republican polls and also leading the general election polls against Joe Biden in many cases. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. also making a lot of sense on Ukraine. And he is surging over there on the Democrat side against creepy Joe Biden. So all over the world, I think human beings are recognizing that we don't want to, all die, whether it's in a World War III or whether it's some kind of AI-led Terminator scenario. We don't want this to happen. We must be humanists. And just as we are nationalistic in looking out for our countries, we must be humanistic in looking out for our species. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Jonah Hill is, there's a lot going on today that is breaking with Jonah Hill. Now, I don't know if you've heard the latest. There's a very, very, very serious allegation made against Jonah Hill today by a former child actress. And what you've been seeing with this Jonah Hill situation in recent days is this ex-girlfriend of his, who's Sarah Brady, has been putting out some texts and stuff, and they're silly. It's like he clearly was, he even comes off like an extremely nice guy or a very progressive, I'm really sorry for not emboldening your emotional value points. It's almost like, what's the your boundaries and my boundaries, and as a partner, I've moved on. And so it's almost like silly. At first, when I saw these things, and I don't like Jonah Hill, I'll get into why in a minute, but I was just like, okay, whatever, lady. Clearly he wasn't like some kind of monster in that case, right? But then, and also he inspired Ye. You remember when Ye was watching 21 Jump Street.
Yeah, totally changed his mind, didn't it?
Yeah.
It's a good movie. I don't know what to tell you.
Well, ladies, he played a cop in the movie, though, didn't he? I don't know. That's not so anti-establishment. Well, ladies and gentlemen, all right, let's get to the news here, because this is a very serious allegation, and Jonah Hill, by the way, is completely denying it. The former star of Zoe 101, which was a kid's show, Alexa Nicholas, this is according to Entertainment Weekly, she is accusing Jonah Hill of kissing her forcibly when she was 16, he was 24. Jonah Hill denies this. And so Nicholas made this accusation on Twitter. She said this happened about 15 years ago. She was at a Hollywood party with Jonah Hill and Justin Long, she says, and Hill offered her a cigarette. Quote, Jonah Hill didn't hand me the cig, which I thought was weird, and then as we walked back to the door, I asked him for it, and he said nothing but slammed me to the door and shoved his tongue down my throat, Nicholas tweeted. And then you have Marty Singer, who is Jonah Hill's attorney, calling it a complete fabrication. And when I saw that name, I was like, oh, I recognize the name Marty Singer, a longtime fixer, and actually was Bill Cosby's lawyer. And I remember that well as a reporter during the whole Bill Cosby thing, that Marty Singer was representing Bill Cosby. And so Jonah Hill's got Marty Singer representing him, according to Entertainment Weekly. So, wow, that just became a thing. And I want to say, and I don't know Jonah Hill, obviously, and whatnot, but I will say that Jonah Hill is somebody who, over the years, has gotten to where he is through this person, Judd Apatow, right?
Yeah.
Now, Judd Apatow, who's the comedy director, and he was a writer. He was a comedy writer. He was a failed stand-up comedian, and he started writing, shows and movies for Gary Shandling and stuff like that.
Freaks and Geeks. Yeah.
Freaks and Geeks, which was a show, and then became famous making Seth Rogen movies, Superbad, Knocked Up, 40-Year-Old Virgin. Had that string of hits there, but a lot of them after that have not been hits. Right, or have not been very good, and there was one where it's like, this is 40, and it's obviously just about him and his wife, and they're bored with their success, right? He's married to Leslie Mann, who's in all those movies, right?
Yep.
So Judd Apatow just so happens that he led the charge for sponsors to boycott Tucker Carlson. Did you know that?
I did not.
Now you know. Now you have learned that Hollywood director Judd Apatow led the charge against Tucker Carlson's Fox News show when Tucker had a Fox News show, historic, groundbreaking, revolutionary, all-time classic show. Perhaps better than I Love Lucy. Certainly better than anything Judd Apatow has done on television. Judd Apatow's shows, he did Freaks and Geeks, which didn't last very long, but it was pretty good.
It was good, yeah.
He's been involved with some good things. I will say he was a writer for the Larry Sanders Show in the 90s, which was funny. So I'm not saying that he's a totally untalented comedy writer. I am saying that if you're leading the charge against Tucker Carlson to get his sponsors to drop him so that you can censor his point of view, I would say to you, Judd Apatow, that let's look at your net effect. Like, let's look at the net effect of Judd Apatow. Like, let's say Judd Apatow, Venn diagram, pros and cons of his career. All right, maybe was involved with some funny things. The cons are, which I noticed when I was a teen, tremendous amount of filth and degeneracy that got pushed to a specifically teenage audience. And at the time, it was presented as being cool, or it was presented as being very shocking. I remember Superbad, which was well done, as a comedy, but I remember it being, the shock value of it was at the time for a millennial audience of kids, who were in high school, including girls. I mean, that was the date movie, right? Back then? That was the date movie. Those kinds of movies were the date movies, of our generation. 40-Year-Old Virgin, which was just extremely degenerate from beginning to end, right? And these movies were like... And Katherine Heigl actually was an actor in Knocked Up. She was the actress. She played the girl who was like obviously too good for Seth Rogen, but was stuck with him by virtue of the fact that they were having a baby out of wedlock. That modern cultural touchstone, right? And she actually said something along the lines of, the character was sexist. She criticized the whole Apatow kind of thing for being sexist toward these like female characters who are portrayed so negatively. And, apparently the Apatow people and the Seth Rogen people just like blacklisted her in Hollywood. Like, that's what they're accused. Like, all right, Katherine Heigl, because they were powerful, right? They're studio guys and they make all this money and had all this box office over the years putting out this stuff. And these products would keep getting filthier and more degenerate as the years go on. Seth Rogen was involved with that awful HBO Max show about Santa Claus, where Santa Claus had like white male privilege and Sarah Silverman was in it. Like the product just keeps getting worse and worse and worse and worse, right? And even Superbad and Knocked Up, that was a long time ago. Like that was however many years ago that was. It was that was like our, those movies are in the past now. I mean, the culture sort of moved on. But a lot has gone on around that crew, in particular. James Franco went down in a Me Too scandal, and James Franco was in a ton of those movies and was on Freaks and Geeks and was in the Apatow gang, and he went down in a huge Me Too where he was accused of being a sexual predator, right? And so there's a whole history here with that particular crew. And in Hollywood, and they want to be very, very politically active. You always hear about Seth Rogen. Oh, those Trump supporters. Blah, blah. This guy who's like the perpetual stoner. The girl's too good for him, and that's the joke. Like him being with that girl is the joke of the movie, right? I mean, and it's remember when, even comedians like Burt Reynolds, Sandler, right? They were like cool. Like you wanted to be like them, Not Seth Rogen.
No.
Nobody wants to be like Seth Rogen.
Sucks. Yeah.
But yeah, Judd Apatow, I mean, what's your net effect? You've pushed a ton of degeneracy out there. You were involved with a few funny things and a lot of stuff that was lame. And you want to be a little political leftist activist and help bring on communism in the United States of America? Yeah, no thanks, bro. No thanks. No thanks. I don't care about your work with Gary Shandling back in the 90s, you know? Sorry. And I say that, I mean, no offense. I know you Hollywood people are very vain. But like Jane Fonda, for instance, like I'll give credit where it's due. Jane Fonda was hot in the 1960s, circa Barbarella. Okay, granted, you know, and I'm a big man for admitting that. But at the same time, does 1960s hotness mean that I have to listen to this person's political opinion in the year 2023? Of course not. Of course not. That was a long time ago. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So much to discuss here on the campaign show. I'm very happy to be with all of you, and we will continue to monitor that situation with Jonah Hill. And, here's Jonah Hill actually on TMZ. They asked him about the Ye thing. They asked him about the 21 Jump Street thing a while ago. Harvey Levin of TMZ had one of his goons ask Jonah Hill about Ye. Let's take a look.
Guess who went out to dinner last night? The guy that everybody wanted to hear from since Kanye West basically thanked him, Jonah Hill, for ending his anti-Semitic feelings. Well,
don't say ending, please.
Well, that's what Kanye says.
That's what Kanye said.
I get your point. But yes, Jonah Hill was out last night in Santa Monica, went to Giorgio Baldi.
That's Rihanna's restaurant.
She doesn't own it, but it seems like she owns it because she goes so often. And he was asked about...
You know, Harvey Levin is a shoe leather reporter.
In case you didn't hear,
say what you will about him.
That Kanye West said that he watched 21 Jump Street.
They actually asked me once if I was interested in being involved with a TMZ DC bureau. This was a long time ago. Obviously, I was like, I don't think it ever happened.
Jonah's reaction to Kanye's turnaround. Here's what happened.
How you doing, Jonah? Oh, sorry. You look good. Hey, how do you?
He looks like a hobo.
How do you feel about Kanye's comments about
Jonah,
you changing?
can you Funko Pop, please?
You changing his perspective?
Well, that's it.
I mean, to be
Oh,
fair,
he wouldn't
never
reply
talks to
about Ye.
paparazzi, and
He wouldn't
I don't think
reply
we're ever
about
gonna get his thoughts on
inspiring.
this because he's been very open about
Ye
his.
well, Jonah Hill did a movie recently with Eddie Murphy where he just looked absolutely awful. And it's like, how did nobody on this movie like? Was there a makeup person?
The only person to lose 200 pounds and look worse. What happened? It's like he looks homeless.
Yeah.
What happened?
It doesn't look like it's going too great there for Jonah Hill. However, his Hollywood career is going, I don't know. I don't follow that stuff too closely these days. But yeah, man. So we'll see how it all pans out with. So Marty Singer, representing Jonah Hill, saying complete fabrication from this former Zoe 101 star. But we know, we know Hollywood. We know what goes on in Hollywood in terms of these young actors and actresses, and a whole lot of abuse has been alleged over the years over there in Tinseltown, which really has been one of the most powerful forces in our society, still is to some degree, although it's been greatly weakened, especially in the age of Alex Jones and President Donald Trump and Tucker Carlson and all of us. So, ladies and gentlemen, Henry Kissinger, this guy is a very old man. He may actually be 100 years old. Let's look up. Let's see if he hit the century mark. Do you know? I'm pretty sure that he turned 100 years old recently. Henry Kissinger is age 100! On May 27th, he turned 100 years old. 100. Wow.
It looks great it doesn't look a day past 99.
Doesn't look a day past 99. Doesn't look a day past 99. I mean, some days I'd say he's 87. What do you think keeps him so young? You think maybe there's some kind of substance? Allegedly? I don't know. Some kind of maybe substance that keeps...
Some sort of blood or...
Who knows? I mean, who knows what that might be? But Henry Kissinger actually Well, there are some theories, although we have to be very circumspect as we talk about the very powerful forces of the New World Order and the globalist establishment and whatnot, as they try to come at us with all their demon energy and whatnot. And now a lot of people, maybe there's some kind of interdimensional demon thing going on where it's like they feed off of our negative energy. And where are all the children going, by the way? Where are all the kids going? This genocide. Where are all the kids going? Now, Jim Caviezel's movie is out. Obviously, it's doing huge business. Why is it doing so well? Because all over the place, people know and are horrified. We're going to get into this, by the way. Horrified about human trafficking. This is the world that people like Henry Kissinger has presided over. 100 years old, this guy. This guy opened up China back in the 70s. How did that work out in the long run? Right around the same time that we went off the gold standard once and for all. Huh. Well, Henry Kissinger and Nixon just, deep throat. Deep throat in the parking garage and the phone call to Woodward and Bernstein, the young junior reporters. Right? Whole thing. Nixon, if you listen to the tapes, there's some based stuff on those tapes.
Yeah.
Nixon had an acute sense of politics. He was not politically naive, Nixon, but they ousted him in the end,
Yeah.
But he kept going, man. He did the David Frost interview. He was writing books. Other presidents you ask him for advice, like, Nixon, what do we do here? It's like late night at the White House. What are we going to do here? All right, call Nixon. Be like, all right, I'll just do it. Out of the kindness of his heart, he would just advise the presidents who came after him. But he had Kissinger in there, which,
Right.
maybe he had to. He didn't come from like a power source. He was a politician. He was only in Congress very briefly. And then he was in the Senate very briefly. And then he became Dwight Eisenhower's running mate and vice president. And Dwight Eisenhower didn't even really get behind him in 1960 when he ran against John F. Kennedy. Dwight Eisenhower said something to the effect, they asked him, what was one of Nixon's accomplishments? And Dwight Eisenhower was like, I don't know. If you give me some time, maybe I'll come up with one or something. And it's suspected that Dwight Eisenhower actually wanted John F. Kennedy to win because he thought he was the better commander-in-chief. Anyhow, Henry Kissinger was pranked by Vovan and Lexus, the Russian pranksters. These guys have a really high success rate, very high batting average for these guys, these Russian pranksters. So Vovan and Lexus, and I believe they posed as Zelensky, and they got Henry Kissinger to admit, among other things, that he thought, wait for it, he thinks that Zelensky and Ukraine attacked the Nord Stream pipeline. Oh, that pipeline that we hear over and over and over and over again. Over and over again that, Russia sabotaged it as a false flag, right? Wait a second. The deep state's lying to us? Let's take a look.
Of Nord Stream 2. How do you think? Who is behind of explosion of Nord Stream 2?
Oh, dude.
Who is guilty? How do you think?
I frankly have thought you were.
Really? You think that we? No.
But I didn't blame you.
Oh,
I would not say that as a criticism.
Это шоу Will.
That's so funny. He's so old.
wow.
Doesn't know anything.
War criminal. In my view, right there. What? Yeah. Henry Kissinger thinks Ukraine attacked the Nord Stream pipeline. He's not going to blame Zelensky for it. No, that's right. You know what else reportedly was revealed in this interview? Reportedly, Kissinger admitted that, Bushy James Baker's deal with Gorbachev back in the day, they agreed not to move the boundaries of NATO, like 1 inch to the east or whatever. We're not going to move NATO. And then, of course, in recent years, they've been trying desperately to get Ukraine into NATO so they can use the existing conflict in Donbass, in which all those separatists want to go with Russia and break off from the criminal CIA, Soros, Hunter Biden regime in Ukraine, right, with the Zelensky guy. And they want to go with Russia and Donbass. So that hot civil war has been going on since at least 2014. And they want to get Ukraine into NATO, so immediately there can be a pretext for all the NATO countries jumping into war because there's already a war going on in that region, which is one of the things that people don't understand about Putin's so-called invasion. He really was just being more aggressive and moving forward in a war that's already been going on, that mostly his supporters in that region were fighting themselves. And at a certain point, one of the things that motivated this so-called invasion was that he wanted to give his people some backup in Donbass. He wanted to back up these groups and these civilians. We showed Patrick Lancaster's videos where he showed the Ukraine military shelled a school and shelled civilians, killed school children. So, I mean, this is demonic stuff, absolutely demonic stuff. But of course, Creepy Joe doesn't want the press in there. The press has to leave so Creepy Joe can have his convo with Zelensky.
At any rate, I thank you, and we got a lot to talk about, so somebody's going to have to say the press has to leave.
President Zelensky, are you satisfied with what you got from NATO? You were so frustrated yesterday.
Thank you.
Are you satisfied, sir?
Zelensky almost dressed to the nines.
Yeah, he really classes it up, Zelensky there. Is he doing some kind of Castro thing? Does he? It's so odd because, you know, some of these guys have the swag to pull it off. You look at Muammar Gaddafi, for instance.
Oh, yeah.
You look at some of these guys' uniforms. It's like, I get this, you know. And you look at, some of these folks through the years down in South America. They started getting into this like jogging suit thing. They would wear like Sopranos style, jogging suit kind of stuff. I don't think that really represented power too much. That kind of, a lot of those guys I think got cooed and whatnot. Yeah. If you're gonna wear the jogging suit, but you had the Castro thing. Castro, would kind of stroll around like a military guy, and I think that's kind of what Zelensky's trying to go for. But he's not really, pulling it off. People are just like, "Why are you dressed like this? You don't look like some kind of military commander. You're just like this weird little guy who's taking the money." He's taking the money. He's back for more money. But he's claiming to fight this war because he cares so much. Good Lord. Dark times. We got to get out of this war. President Donald Trump says peace deal in under 24 hours. Obviously, I trust that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. would try to obviously stand up to the war machine, as he has been. I mean, he's been saying that the CIA killed his dad, killed his uncle.
I believe he would do it.
I think he would do it. So you got those two guys who are out there against great opposition. Oh, you got Creepy Joe, though. The experts imploring Russia to stop attacking itself.
One country cannot be allowed to seize its neighbor's territory by force. Russia could end this war tomorrow by withdrawing its forces from Ukraine, wrecking its international borders, and ceasing its attacks on its inhumane attacks on Russia. By Russia on Ukraine.
Almost, Joe. Russia's against Ukraine. Russia's not against Russia unless you're admitting that Ukraine is part of Russia. Yeah. In which case, is the war over finally now? I mean, can we call it a day? Can we call it here? I mean, is that all she wrote? It's sort of like, in a football game, if there's, 6 seconds left, they start walking onto the field. It's like, nothing more can be done. The clock has run out and the war's over now, right? Just give it to Putin. Because we don't want to get nuked over this. I don't. You think I want to get nuked?
I don't want to get nuked.
It's like, it's like a mentally vacant guy who had cocaine found in his house, taking a big swing at some massive guy in a bar, and then the big massive guy in the bar assumes that 350 million people are on the crazy guy's side, and he's, coming after us, and it's like, no, I'm not, you know what I mean? We don't want this war. We don't want this. It's sickening that these people are dying. It's sickening that after all these years, there's so little resistance to the war machine right now. All these Jane Fondas, right? All these old folks. What happened to these Hollywood people from the 70s? What happened to all of them? Where are they out? Where are they now? Where are these people coming out and saying enough is enough? Well, we're going to say it right here on the campaign show, ladies and gentlemen. And creepy Joe Biden. I don't want creepy Joe Biden to turn back naked.
The world has changed. Will we turn back naked, unchecked aggression today to deter other world would-be aggressors tomorrow? Will we staunch the climate crisis before it's too late?
Will we staunch the climate crisis before it's too late? I just heard naked and I was like, well, Edward Saul. Do you know Ed Saul?
I've heard of him, yeah.
My co-host on Crosstalk at Night. We've now done 3 episodes of Crosstalk at Night on Monday nights on the Stu Peters network and also on Band.video. And great enthusiasm among the viewers, great numbers. And Ed Zoll, on the most recent episode, made a pretty bold allegation from his experience, from his own personal recollection of his time as a White House reporter, where he would be in the proximity of CNN's noted fake newsman, Jim Acosta.
When I was in the White House press corps, all those reporters were doing coke.
Really?
All the time. Yeah, we were like the only people not high when we were on these assignments going to Finland with President Trump and President Putin, these other things. All of them were high. Jim Acosta freaking is like a snow bunny coke fiend, man. Let's just say that we were hanging out in Finland.
Okay.
After the infamous press briefing between President Trump and the head of Russia, President Putin.
Right.
And let's just say everyone was hanging out, getting drunk on on the back porch at the hotel. It was talking with a big group of girls, trying to impress them. I think he might have been trying to give them bumps.
Wow. Well, the allegation is out there, and obviously, we call upon the truth, the full truth, the full accounting of the truth, and who knew what, when, and where. And I think that this is sort of a Watergate that's just beginning, really, with that.
It looks like he was doing coke. It appears that possibly he was doing cocaine, and that's
Wonder what the White House Correspondents Association thinks about that. You would think that they would have standards, right? That they would be like... Matt Gaetz, ladies and gentlemen. Congressman Matt Gaetz. You know why I like Congressman Matt Gaetz? I'll tell you why I like Congressman Matt Gaetz. He has been an America First champion over the years. But even I sort of wondered, with all these guys, with all these people, even Matt Gaetz, I was like, how bold is he? How far is he going to go? Matt Gaetz not only basically single-handedly took on the establishment down to the end, down to the wire. He even, I believe, outlasted Lauren Boebert when they were on the lifeboat at the end. Matt Gaetz just refused to back down against Kevin McCarthy after 4 magical days of very peacefully holding the Capitol hostage. Not, holding the Capitol hostage in the way that they say, but through the political process.
Oh, that was awesome. They should have done it longer.
There was no speaker. Our money was not getting stolen and going to Ukraine. But apparently Large Marge Green, big-time supporter of Kevin McCarthy for some reason, she, I guess, the effect of what she did in shilling for McCarthy helped for the money to keep going to Ukraine, right? Lead us closer to World War III. We're judged by the decisions that we make in our lives. And you know what I will say about Lauren Boebert? You know what I will say about Byron Donalds? But Byron Donalds caved pretty early. And I will say Chip Roy, who I guess is a DeSantis stan, he caved pretty darn early.
Yeah.
Pretty darn early and took some wind out of the sails. Paul Gosar was fighting, but Paul Gosar eventually caved. You know who didn't cave? Matt Gaetz, baby. Matt Gaetz. Here is Matt Gaetz grilling the FBI Director Christopher Wray on the brazen illegal surveillance of Americans.
How many illegal FISA queries have occurred under your leadership of the FBI?
Well, there are reports that have come out with different numbers about compliance incidents.
More than 1 million illegal ones? Because that's what the Inspector General said. The Inspector General said that in the 3.4 million of these
incidents,
queries, more than 1 million were in error. Do you have any basis to disagree with that assessment by the Inspector General?
I'm not sure. Actually, that's a correct characterization of the Inspector General's findings on that.
Well, the internet will remind you of that in moments. But let's now go to.
He gave us a shout out, guys.
The court said it was over 200,000
He's talking about us.
that occurred on your watch. Do you have any basis to disagree with that assessment?
Again, I don't have the number as I sit here right now. What I can
Seems like a number you should know. How many times the FBI is breaking the law under your watch?
Oh, let's go. Let's go. Let's go, Matt Gaetz, baby. Let's go. Oh, you love to see it. Christopher Ray looking like the ex-husband in every Lifetime movie. He's just so perfect. He's just the Brooks Brothers ad. He's the cover model for the resort town local magazine, you know, playing squash. He's that guy. He is that guy. He is central casting. He is central deep state casting, isn't he? Christopher Ray, whose FBI has led a witch hunt against President Donald J. Trump, the champion of the America First movement. These are very concerning times. And to the extent that there's any stability left in our system, or to the extent that perhaps in the coming years things will become more chaotic as more systems fail of their own accord, more institutions crumble from the corruption, from the crookedness, from the decay of these poorly built institutions, because these people who have been running them have just been corrupt for decades. Corrupt for decades. And banks have failed, and banks will fail again. And the military-industrial complex has completely and utterly lost any kind of a moral authority. People all over the world see that. So, ladies and gentlemen, is the Globalist Project going to be able to fulfill their dark vision? I mean, there's just no way I see them effectively creating order out of the chaos that they create, so long as the people who choose peace and who choose stability and who choose truth and humanity and God, so long as we refuse to renounce our beliefs, we refuse to renounce what we know about them and about what they're doing. The time is now for us to be the best versions of ourselves, because we are made in the image of God. And that means something. That still means something. They haven't outsourced that one yet. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this Jim Caviezel movie, very inspiring to see. Frankie, it is called Sound of Freedom?
Sound of Freedom.
Sound of Freedom. I have yet to see it.
No, we gotta
but
see
it is playing.
Yep.
It's playing nearby, actually. I saw it. Every now and then I'll poke in and look at, Black Spider-Man, Black Little Mermaid. And then I saw this, Sound of Freedom.
Yeah.
So there you go. But I'm sure it's a pretty emotionally intense experience, you know. But then again, it can't be more depressing than a recent Seth Rogen movie, right?
It's got to be at least as good as Barbie.
Yeah, is that still out? Is that
Ryan Gosling? I mean, it's got to be all right. You know?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know much about that. I think it's probably going to be pretty woke. Barbie thing. Sound of Freedom doing very well. It's about child trafficking. It's about human trafficking, which is an issue that we talk about all the time. Not only with the Child Protective Services, which is actually government-sanctioned literal child trafficking, of trafficking these kids into foster care, as many as possible in great numbers in order to get the Social Security money that gets paid to the states every time a kid is adopted out of foster care. Oh, who put in place that incentive program? None other than Hillary Clinton, through Bill Clinton. You know, she was the Rasputin of Bill Clinton at the time. And, of course, brazenly over the southern border. Remember Alex Jones literally blocking a car, standing in the way of a car that was transporting little kids, you know, refusing to just allow these people to so clearly violate these little children and these poor souls. And this is the shame of all of humanity in our time, that this has not only not been eradicated, but it keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And if you think that it's not out there, and if you think that it's not around you, just look at this clip from London, and look at these kids that are getting, and we don't have the full context of this. However, to be clear, the internet is suspecting that something may be going on here with these children being taken out of this truck.
I'm not sure this from the movie, because somebody let me know it's from the Sound of Freedom, because it don't look like, this look like real events. Are those Hispanic children? Oh my goodness. That's a shipping container. No.
Just a bunch of Hispanic kids in the truck, you know.
Oh my goodness, some more.
Well, fascinating stuff, and obviously we'll continue to monitor that situation in particular and give you some more updates, but, you know, obviously human trafficking going on everywhere, all over the world, and it is very, very, very important that now more than ever we must stand up to it, and we have to support the people whose hearts are in the right place, who are trying to work against this. And so I'm going to have to see Sound of Freedom, which I'm glad that that's making an impact. And, oh, by the way, you know the Oh Dang guy? You know, the guy in the background of a lot of these different videos. I don't know how he has time to be in so many different places, but it's the guy who provides color commentary like, oh, dang, they wilded out. Oh, dang, right? In a lot of these, you know, chaotic clips and stuff like that that you see that go viral on the internet. It's different people, but it's basically like the same sort of character, this observer. And they stole a car. Oh, dang, by the way.
They stole his car. They got his car. They stole his car. They got right. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. Oh, sorry, man.
I bet it was just one big misunderstanding.
It looks like a misunderstanding. Yeah. Looks like a lot of confusion going on. And while this confusion happens in America, I actually found this video in the comments of that video.
Okay.
On Twitter. And this is actually from Moscow, Russia. To draw a little comparison here, let's just take a look. You know, you've seen America, okay? You've seen the strip mall labor colony. You've seen people fighting at Walmart. You've seen this kind of stuff happening. You saw the Subway fight. Remember we showed the Subway sandwich shop fight in which the employee and the customer were attacking each other with the same trash can that they were struggling over. Remember that classic? That's in the Time Life treasury of retail fights. This is Moscow, Russia, by comparison. Wow. Looks really nice. Look at all these really nice looking people. Looks like a happening place. Like there's a lot to do. People are friendly. Look at all these people just enjoying their day. Wow. Oh my goodness. Look at some of these ladies who are really beautiful. Very, very beautiful, lovely. Not morbidly obese, not shoving their face with Jack in the Box, not screeching about wearing masks. Not saying degenerate things about their body parts in public. Wow, this is really something. I would love to check this out, you know?
This looks awesome.
Just looks like peaceful, but also exciting, you know? Like there's a lot to do. There's people to meet. don't know, just like really healthy, attractive people. Very attractive ladies. A lot of Christianity in Russia. Very, very Christian culture. And, wow, just look at all those young people. Looks like young people doing well there. Not a lot. You're not seeing a lot of older people, accusing the younger people of being lazy and living in basements and yelling at them for not having, a big enough car. And America, I see a lot of cars on interstates. There's a lot of strip malls. There's a lot of Walgreens. There's a lot of Denny's, stuff like that. Russia, it looked like totally different. It was almost like, wow, spend a long weekend there, it looks pleasant. I really hope that we don't get nuclear bombed by those people, How did it work out that I end up on do they expect all of America to be on Team Bud Light war, I got no beef with the Russians,
No, Russia's awesome.
Ain't no Russian ever called me conspiracy theorist, as far as I know.
Right.
I'd probably do pretty well with the Russians, if they could hear my point of view, if they could watch the campaign show, We should really cultivate, an audience overseas and in different places. Because even though we are nationalistic, we also like to support nationalistic and Christian movements elsewhere in the world, because that benefits us and our own nationalistic ambitions as well. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I will tell you one thing, and the campaign show is doing very well. Crosstalk at Night is doing very well, and we do have plans to do Crosstalk at Night every single night pretty soon, so we're working up to that and putting the pieces in place to give you guys the best possible content every single day. And one of the ways that we can do that is, if you need a gun holster, okay, Vanish Holsters is probably for you. Christian gun owners should be aware of an unfortunate trend that is putting people in danger. Millions of concealed carrying gun owners have made a huge mistake with their holster because their holster is so uncomfortable, they've actually stopped using it, and then their quest to defend themselves fails from the start. That's why Vanish holsters are becoming one of the most popular holsters in America very quickly. Thousands of customers say it's the most comfortable holster ever, and that because it's so comfortable, when you get one, you'll never stop carrying, and this holster also saves you money. That's because it fits 99% of all semi-auto handguns, it works without a tactical belt, it lets you carry in multiple positions, and it carries 2 fully loaded magazines. And best of all is that because you're a supporter of the campaign show, because you're a viewer of this revolutionary broadcast, of this very peaceful revolutionary broadcast, you can get it for $50 off. Just go to vanish.com/Patrick. That's vnsh.com/Patrick to see if your gun will work. And as we said, this is pretty near universal in terms of being able to be the right size. And I mean, we've looked into this pretty extensively. So, I mean,
right. Just on the landing page, you can look up your gun. I'm sure they'll have it. The Walthers, everything. It fits all of them.
So this holster, usually it's $130. We're going to knock $50 off of that. $80, vnsh.com/Patrick, and help us begin to build this empire of truth. This empire of truth, ladies and gentlemen. I love you. Instagram.com/the.campaignshow, gab.com/Patrick Reports, twitter.com/Howley Reporter, cozy.com/Patrick Howley, vnsh.com/Patrick. It's coming together, baby. It's coming together.
There's one other thing, Patrick.
Yes.
We got a $50 power chat from Anonymous. Just an anonymous viewer of the show decided to send us $50. So thank you, Anonymous. Their message?
Yeah.
Deus Volt.
I'm sorry?
Deus Volt.
What does that mean?
I don't know.
Say it again?
Deus Volt.
Okay. We'll look that up. I'm not entirely sure what you're saying, so just send me with the spelling. What's the spelling of it?
Deusvult.
Oh, okay. Wait a second. Is that Latin?
It means God wills it in Latin. Yeah.
All right. God wills it in Latin. Love it. I love it. Wouldn't you love to speak Latin?
Yeah. Just break that out. Yeah, anytime.
If you ever see anybody speaking any backwards Latin or speaking in tongues or whatever, they might be in politics. Latin was such a beautiful language, and it inspired the Romance languages. And so how is it that Latin is lost? Don't you hear that anti-Latin propaganda all the time, like it's a lost language? Well, it's not a lost language, because here on the very classy campaign show, you know, I guess Trump is right. We are the super elites. Right. I certainly feel like I know more than like Pete Buttigieg or Whoopi Goldberg.
What does he know? Yeah, what does he know?
Definitely. All right, hey, come back to the campaign show tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern time. I'll be here.